welcome to another episode of Around the Emirates with Sarah, where I speak to guests from across the UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today I'm joined by Executive Director of Storm Swimming Consultancy, Will. Hello, Will.
Hello, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to meet you.
And you?
Of course. So, Will has a fascinating story about his journey throughout COVID until now. So, why don't you tell us your background and your story?
So my background is I'm a PE teacher, and I was a PE teacher for 7 years, 5 of which was here in the UAE. And then through some technicalities, I decided to, and basically with all the red tape and everything surrounding teaching these days, I decided, right, enough's enough. Let's just go and do swimming. So I worked for a couple of companies before setting up Storm, and I always had this vision of setting up my own academy and creating my own legacy and doing things my way, which being a Capricorn, I firmly believe is the right way to do it. And nobody can tell me otherwise, which is good. So basically what happened was I was working for different companies and kind of learning their style and looking at the way they did things and thinking that's not the way that I would do it. And then going to another company and going, well, that's not the way that I would do it, and actually having an understanding that employees know a lot more than maybe they're given credit for, and maybe people should listen to them a lot more than they actually do. Mm-hmm. So to cut a long story short, with COVID, now my wife was pregnant at the time with our second. We're expecting another one this week or next week, so inshallah she'll arrive safe and sound. But basically, during less than 2 years ago, I sat down and received a notification that I'd been terminated due to COVID. Wow. And my wife was pregnant at the time, and a couple of months after that, and all the pools shut down, and all the schools put down, and all of my different revenue streams came to a halt. And a couple of months after that, I sat on the end of my bed and I cried. And the reason why I cried is because I had a 1-year-old and my wife was pregnant, and I couldn't afford 82 dirhams to feed my own son. Buy him a bottle of Aptamil, bottle of baby formula. So I said, right, enough's enough. And when you go to those, deep and dark places, it's not good as a father, and with somebody, with responsibilities. The worst thing in the world is not being able to provide for your own kids. And I went, enough's enough. This is it, and I'm not doing this anymore, and something needs to change. So what I ended up doing, bit of a long story short, what I ended up doing is there was no jobs for me to go to, because I thought, well, should I go back and be a PE teacher again? But obviously with school sport having stopped, that option unfortunately wasn't there for me. And then with all the sports academies all closing down and severely minimising the staff and not taking anybody on due to the uncertainty of the pandemic, there was no other option for me than to set up a company. So I ended up acquiring some money through the Labour Court, and with that money, I then set up Storm. So I was maxed out on my credit cards, got some money from court, and used all that money to set up, not buying baby formula, to set up a company to give myself a visa. And that was last January, so January 2021. And then I got myself fully booked and fully busy, helped out a few people along the way. Didn't think that it would ever kind of, with all the restrictions of the pandemic, didn't think that it would kind of ever come to being what it is today. And then basically what happened was, between January and April, I had 400 people on a waiting list for me, and I went, Hang on a second. Let's potentially. I don't know why I'm clapping. I apologise to any of our viewers or our listeners. It's like clapping yourself. So then in April last year, so literally exactly a year ago now, I hired my first member of staff just to take away some of the clients that I couldn't fit in, and I thought, well, listen, we can help somebody else out, because obviously all swimming teachers had all been terminated and didn't have a leg to stand on, and there's so many people in my position. So April came, I hired one member of staff, and then I got her fully booked, and I went, that was all right. That was easy. It wasn't easy, but I thought, whoa, I've done it for one. Let's bring on another one.
Keep doing this. Keep trying.
So then I brought on another one, and I went, that worked. So I brought on another one, and then within the first, kind of snowballed, and then within the first 6 months, so from April to October, I'd hired 22 members of staff. 2 full-time admin. The office that we're sitting in now, I've just paid the next 6 months. So we've had this office only 6 months. I then brought on a full-time admin. Obviously brought in a director of operations who's kind of been with me since the start, sort of advising me, and a kind of shoulder to lean on type thing. And Clark has been amazing, and I put a lot of success down to him, and all the success down to the staff. Because without the team around me that I have, we wouldn't be in the position where we are today. And the position where we're in today is we've got 20. Lou's normally, my office manager normally confirms this because it's all, getting quite big now. But I think we've got 28 employees.
Wow.
26 swimming coaches, and we just keep growing. Keep swimming. I don't know whether you've seen Finding Nemo or Finding Dory, but yeah. Well, we put it on the TV like every week, and we just keep swimming. So we're getting bigger. But for me, the most important thing about why we're doing so well is the staff that we've got around us. And I keep I've mentioned that before, and they're amazing. They really, really are. They've all got their quirks. They're all very, they're individuals, and you just kind of need to know how to manage them. And some like this, and some people don't like this. But I think that the team that we have together is amazing. And obviously, there's been quite a few people come to me because I'm the 100% shareholder in the company. And I'm not a businessman. I don't claim to be a businessman. I claim to be a swim coach. Just a director. That's only on the business cards. What I am really is a swim coach, and I still coach 7 days a week, and I absolutely love it. And I kind of, tell people that I'm not the boss. I'm not, I'm the team leader, because most of the time the staff are coming in the pools where I'm actually teaching, saying, "Hi, Will," and teaching alongside me. And I think that you need to, as a leader, you have to show people that you're actually doing what they're doing. My day, I teach, 12 hours on Sunday, 6 hours on Saturday, and I'm in the office from about 8 o'clock till 2:30 every day, and then I'm coaching from 3 to 9. So I'm the busiest.
Sorry, when do you see your kids, man?
I don't, and this is what I say. This is why we're still married, because I never see my wife. So it's crazy. It's been a roller coaster, and all I'm trying to do is just create a sustainable future, not just for my family, but for the swim coaches, because I'm a swim coach. I know how we've been treated in the past. I know, how I have always, wanted to be treated as not just an employee, but as a swim coach. And what I've tried to do is break down the barriers and allow other swim coaches who are literally the same as me to just break free and just create sustainable futures for them and their families. But it's
that's fantastic, Will. Honestly,
yeah,
I think
thank you.
Knowing that you've gone from being terminated, and the worst part about COVID is that you're terminated and it's not even your fault, right? Like you can't control that.
Yeah.
So to go from that to like a business, and creating your own family, essentially like a second family, is wonderful. I know that obviously COVID would have been like a main challenge for you, having to like find a new job and start a new business in the pandemic. But aside from the pandemic, what would you say was your biggest challenge or obstacle?
Okay, so my biggest challenge and my biggest obstacle is not having money behind the business. Do you know? When I set up the company, I had 106,000 dirhams outstanding on my credit card the day I set the business up. So the biggest challenge that we've had is that we've had no cash. We've had nothing. So obviously so I was working. And then the first member of staff, then all of that work that I'd been doing, then had to go for that visa. And then all the work that I kept doing is kind of having to go for the visa. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've still kept teaching, is because I need to keep teaching in order to sort of fund the investment. And a lot of people have approached me saying, listen, can we invest? Can we do this? Can we do this? And maybe one day I'm going to take them up on their offer, and maybe play them off against each other and see kind of the deal in which we can do. But when I've sat down with some key members of staff, they've said, we don't want it. And when I've asked them why they don't want any investment, is because if you have an investor, you can't do it your way. They think that if we've got an investor, then it's all going to be about the money. It's all going to be about the cash. And for me, I mean, we've got a draw happening this week for the third iPad this year for the staff that we've given out. We do prizes, competitions. Why do we do them? I don't know. Are the staff happy? Yes, they are. If you got happy staff, they look after the clients. And then exactly, happy wife, happy life, happy staff, happy life. And for me, I don't sit in this office every day and just see how much money I can gain from the staff, because I coach nearly 160 children a week. So the money that I get supports me and my family. I don't need to flog the staff or the business in order to generate that. So all the money that's generated from the business keeps going back into it. And one day maybe if I turn the tap off on expansion, then maybe there'll be some money coming from the business. But for me, I look around and is everybody happy? Yes. Can I put food on the table for my family? Yes. Can all the staff do the same? Yes. I'm happy.
Wonderful. So I know that, you've coached, you said 160 children per week.
Yeah, roughly.
So you must have some really interesting stories to share, like someone.
Where do we start? That happened 2 weeks ago. That happens often. Yeah. we usually call that a code brown in the swim teaching lifeguard world. It's a code brown. But there are and the joy, the joy of teaching with children is working with children is like, I suppose working with adults or working with animals. They're unpredictable. Yeah. And if you teach a child 5 days in a row, 5 different personalities might turn up depending on how well they've slept, if they've had a birthday party, if they're really, really excited for something, and that's kind of the dynamic of what we do. And obviously the other dynamic is dealing with parents, because, a lot of people, want the best, but they obviously want the best for the least amount of cash. So the fun thing for me is dealing with things like that and dealing with things from a business point of view. And I think one of the reasons why clients, or as I call them, members of the Storm family, like coming to us is because it's not. I don't treat it like a business. Nobody here treats it like a business. It's like, right, well, listen, let's speak to it. Everybody wants to speak to me though, which is a bit of an issue. So we've got channels and stuff, but I think what people like is the fact that we've got, that they've got me on the other end of the phone speaking to them, and they know that it's kind of very family run, and they can see that personality behind the business and know that they're helping out somebody with a young family who's ethical and who treats the staff right, if that makes sense. And if you do that, then you get staff loyalty. If you get staff loyalty, then you can then retain the clients. And if you can retain the clients, then you can grow. So I think that where's
the funny story?
The fun. See what I mean? See, I've had too many coffees this morning. I apologise.
It's okay, because you've answered what would have been my next question about, a piece of advice for everybody. So staff loyalty is your piece of advice.
100%. Well, the funny story. We've had loads of funny stories. I've had funny stories of where do we start? With children, it's unpredictable. And that's what we love about it. If I start telling stories and any of our clients, members of the Storm family are watching this, then they may know that I'm talking about them. But the piece of advice that I would give to everybody is, I've always had this dream. I've always had the vision that this is what I was meant to do, and I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset. But working for other people, I've never had that opportunity to reach my full potential. And I've always been very, very comfortable in sort of not 9 to 5, but jobs where I have a set salary, have set housing, set flights, or whatever it may be. And I've always been very, very comfortable. But what COVID did is it stopped all of that, shook it all up. So I had no option but to do this.
Right.
You know, so if it wasn't for COVID, then we might not be having this podcast for another 10 years when I'm even more grey than even though they dyed my beard in the barbers the last week, so they actually painted it black and I came out looking like a Lego man. But
that's a funny story.
well, it was one of the kids that did it. No, I'm joking. But you know, you're very, very comfortable in your 9 to 5 and your set salary, whether that's 5, 10, 50, whatever it might be. My piece of advice is, if you've got a dream and you truly, truly believe in that dream, do it. It's not easy. It's certainly not easy on your own. And I had no prior business experience whatsoever, like zero. Like I only learned how to use Instagram like six months ago. But if your way is the right way to do it, you know, and if anybody wants to reach out, they're more than welcome to reach out. I've had a school in Abu Dhabi contact me. We did sort of like a Zoom sort of meeting with an entrepreneurial thing. I don't classify myself as an entrepreneur, but what I will do is I'll always say, listen, this is what I did. This worked for me. It might work for you, or steps 3, 4, and 2 might work, but steps 1 and 5 won't. But I will always, I'll always help people, because the time now, business has changed, and it's time that I suppose the big companies, I'm very politically correct usually, and I'm going to stay politically correct now. But it's time that the big companies get taught that maybe their way of doing business isn't the most ethical. And for me, there's enough business out there for anyone if you're good enough. So if anybody does want to reach out, please let me know. I mean, for me, one of the potential investors, he sat there and said, listen, I want a business plan. And he said, and so I presented it to him, and he said, but you've left one thing out. And I said, what do you mean I've left something out? He said, oh, you've left out the threats to the business and the competition. I said, well, of course I've left it out. And he said, why have you left it out? I said, because there is no competition. There are no threats. And he said, well, who are the other swim academies? I said, well, I could list 10 academies. I said, but you asked me for the threats. And he said, well, they're your competition. I said, nobody's competition, because if you want it more than anyone else and you're willing to work harder than everybody else, then you'll come out on top. And we clap it again. Do I clap myself? I hope you're clapping behind the camera.
Wow. Well, that whole story has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with me and with all the viewers. I definitely learned a lot about what it can do to be passionate for yourself and for your career. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I've ever done it. I might have the bug now. I might have the bug. You'll have to come in. You tune in next week for part 2.
Oh,
huh?
Maybe.
If your left ear can survive another version of me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.